in this case, on the basis of the classes or the class pixels, the range like minimum and maximum values, or the mean plus minus different HDs, etc., has are selected, and then the unclassified pixels or candidate pixels are compared to that user specified ranges, and where there is a parities between the range and the unclassified pixel, then the pixel will be grouped to that particular class. And in this case, those kind of selected ranges which is specified by the analyst are forming a box like pattern. These are called the decision box or decision boundaries, and these decision boundaries can classify the pixels to the group. But it is very important that in these kind of the classes, it is seen that these decision boundaries are overlapped in nature. So here it is very confusing that these kind of the pixels are considering of which class. So if these boxes are tapered at the end of the, or at the edge, then the classes can be separated from each other and the classification accuracy can be gained. So these are the basic thinking about the parallelopipe classification system. So these three algorithms are very much useful for supervised classification. Now, what is the unsupervised system? Unsupervised system is another hard classification system where there is no such need of any prior knowledge as well as a training site. And in this system, pixels are clustered in numbers of classes in a self-organizing manner. And here the analyst only specifies certain parameters such as number of classes, number of iterations, and convergence threshold, that the computer uses guidelines to reveal the statistical patterns that are inherent in the dataset. So these three are very needed parameters for unsupervised classification system. So, and these three types of parameters can be so much understandable using the practicalities. So one thing is very important, that like the supervised classification system, unsupervised classification system is also done using an algorithm like ISOData. What is ISOData? ISOData classification algorithm is very potential classification algorithm which is said as the iterative self-organizing data analysis system, which represents the comprehensive heuristic procedures that have been incorporated into an iterative classification algorithm. What is heuristic? Heuristic means rule of thumb. Means here here some types of thumbnails or some types of corollaries are restricted, and these are basically rule of thumb, and avoiding this kind of the corollaries we cannot proceed with this unsupervised classification system. So what are those? That this is basically a two-step process. These are the corollary or the heuristics. In this, it is a two-pass systems which includes merging of, which includes the splitting up a single cluster into two clusters. Basically, firstly we can get a single cluster as a whole, and this single cluster will be splitted into two clusters or the two classes, and merging of these clusters if their separation distance in multispectral feature space is below a user specified threshold. Means from these two clusters, multiple clusters will be generated as per the user defined classes or the iteration values or the convergence threshold. Now from these kind of multiple clusters, means which have been defined from the primary two clusters, from these multiple clusters, if there is some presence of any cluster under the user defined threshold, then these two clusters will be again merged up to determine the actual class pixels. So this is the basic thing about this ISO data. So it can be defined in this way, like, so suppose it is the pixel, class pixel, it is a class pixel, and these are the candidate pixels, and here a 15-meter radius has been selected. Okay, means this is the searching radius, and this radius can be said as the mathematical domain of this pixel. Okay, and within this mathematical domain we have got this candidate pixel having the coordinate values of 20, 20, and the distance of this candidate pixel from this cluster center is about 14.14. So as this pixel is below the user defined threshold, so that will be merged up with this kind of class. So this pixel 2 will be of the class of pixel 1. So in this way we can make a cluster. Again, suppose this is another candidate pixel, and the distance from this candidate pixel from this cluster center is about 15.81, but the radius is 15, means user defined threshold is 15. Then it will not be classified as the pixel of this group, it will be another cluster. So in this way the classes are merged up and the clusters are split up. So here is the actual philosophy of the ISO data clustering. So here all about the supervised and unsupervised classification system. So now in the next videos I will show you about the signature evaluation and the contingency matrix, or the accuracy estimation of this classification system. So till then, do study and be safe.